Get the car. Come on. Out! Out! Now! Please don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Come on! Come on! Come on!
Pick up any newspaper, and you can readily see the terrorist threat is all too real. There are too many successful abductions, many of which have involved multi-million-dollar ransoms. And there are too many successful assassinations. Does the terrorist record mean all the odds are with the attacker? It's true, they have the advantages. Surveillance of the target, choice of ambush site, surprise and firepower. It shouldn't have happened, but it has. But the target also has strengths. With training and proper mental conditioning, you can survive a terrorist ambush. You saw a small sedan stop a vehicle weighing 3 times as much. It shouldn't have happened, but it did, and has several times in the past few years in terrorist ambushes. But it won't happen to you if you're trained in offensive driving techniques. Of course, the techniques we'll demonstrate are only to be used as a last measure against kidnap and assassination attempts. But if you learn these techniques, they could save your life. One of the reasons smaller vehicles stop larger ones is chauffeur psychology. In a vehicle ambush, you must forget about the expensive car, broken headlights, dents, and smashed-in grill. To save your life or the life of another, you may have to damage your vehicle. The average American-made sedan weighs from 2 to 3 tons. In an ambush situation, this mass of steel must be considered a weapon. It's not fragile if used correctly. Drivers in stunt cars and demolition derbies have known this for years. Your car can take considerable damage and keep right on running if it is in good mechanical condition to start with, and if you know what you are doing. The right angle, proper speed, and point of impact in a vehicle collision will enable your car to run long enough for you to escape an attempted ambush. Tremendous effort goes into the planning of an ambush by terrorists. Part of knowing what to do is in knowing the threat. Have a plan of your own to counterattack, to take the terrorist by surprise. Let's examine a common form of ambush, the stationary vehicle roadblock. There's no doubt the roadblock means you've been targeted. Yes, it can happen to you. The prime offensive tactic is ramming. This is the correct sequence. Slow immediately and shift into low gear. Brake suddenly. By slowing, the ambushers will think you are surrendering. This will give you precious seconds to evaluate the actual situation and to assess your next move. Pick a point to ram on the blocking vehicle. If possible, aim at the right rear wheel area, either at the wheel or slightly to the rear of the wheel. Accelerate while aiming your right front fender at the target impact point. Build speed and accelerate straight through the blocking vehicle. Don't ease off the accelerator. Above all, don't panic and hit the brakes. And don't swerve. Drive straight through like a karate kick. Aim through and beyond the impact point. Though we are only traveling at slow speeds, the weight of the blocking car's engine will usually act as a fulcrum and spin it out of the way of the target vehicle. If the attackers are standing near the blocking car, there's a good chance they'll be injured, stunned, or so confused that they could not shoot or mount an immediate pursuit. It is not a natural act to deliberately strike another vehicle. An abnormal act, perhaps, but it must be done in an ambush situation. The momentum of your vehicle transmits the impact force to the ambushers. If your seatbelt is fastened, there's little chance for injury or even shock. The preferred ramming impact points are right rear wheel area, left rear wheel area, and, if the above are impossible, the front wheel areas. Another ambush tactic is to suddenly pull out from a side street, driveway, or an alley to block the target car. Be alert for such a maneuver and be prepared to react. Mentally drive a couple of blocks ahead all the time. Terrorists have utilized two vehicles in a rolling box maneuver to block and stop their abduction target. The untrained driver has no recourse but to stop. Counter by ramming the right front fender of suspect number 2 and the left rear fender of suspect number 1. In two-car stationary roadblocks, you must make a decision as to where to try to break through. If the high side of the road has an area to maneuver on, hit the left rear and shove suspect number 1 out of the way and into number 2. If there is no maneuvering room, ram straight down the middle. Another threat is the rolling ambush. A common terrorist technique is to pass the target vehicle on a curve. If the right front window lines up with the left rear window of the target, the gunmen will begin to pour fire into the car, raking the interior as they sweep by. Always watch for vehicles following you. Use your mirrors. Use them often. Be most suspicious of 3 people in a sedan with one in the back seat. Be cautious when a vehicle attempts to pass you, especially on a curve. If it appears there's a real threat, jam on the brakes. Immediately duck down on the seat to present as low a profile as possible. The sudden stop will cause the attackers to overshoot your car. Plus, it will drastically cut their angle and their firing time. Depending on the terrain, traffic conditions, and the attacker's position, there are several options open to you. When on a curve, go into reverse to gain the cover of the curve and break visual contact. Ram the rear of the attacking vehicle. Careful to hit at a correct angle so as not to lock up. Striking hard could neutralize the ambushers, especially if they aren't using seat belts. An escape option is the jumping of curbs or dividers, especially in an urban attack. This tactic takes knowledge and practice. A curb or divider must be struck at an angle between 30 and 45 degrees. This is a narrow angle, but it can be done. Striking the curb at less than 30 degrees can cause the driver to lose control of the steering wheel. At more than 45 degrees, there's a possibility of blowing the tires. Done correctly, there's no great problem even with high curves. But be aware of the terrain, holes, soft dirt, and other obstructions. Do not drive around the roadblock, since you're exposed to the total firepower of the attacker at the worst possible angles, as illustrated in this simulated ambush exercise. Don't sideswipe the attacking car in an effort to shove it off the road. The two cars could lock together. This would give the terrorists a good shot at you. Drive straight through the impact point. Surprise, shock, confuse the terrorists so they cannot react. Attack and get out of there as quickly as possible. Keep on that accelerator. Don't kill the engine. Even with considerable front-end damage, your vehicle will run, but keep the engine running. Normally, do not ram a blocking vehicle broadside. From this angle, the vehicles are locked together, and you face the grave danger of being immobilized permanently. Naturally, the ramming tactic is impractical if a bus, a cement truck, or a steamroller is the blocking instrument. Along with the offensive tactics, there are some simple but vital rules that should be followed. Keep your seatbelt fastened until you're ready to leave your vehicle. This is most important in ramming situations and for your own general safety in normal driving. Keep all doors locked at all times. All windows should be kept rolled up. Use the air conditioning or open the windows no more than an inch for air circulation. With the windows up, an attacker cannot reach into the vehicle. Plus, it helps to prevent objects such as rocks, grenades, and Molotov cocktails being thrown directly into the car. However, there is no guarantee that the window will stop all thrown objects. Keep a full tank. If pursued by attackers, running out of gas could be fatal. Be equipped with functional flat mirrors and use them. Be aware of movements to your rear. Make this a reflexive action. Drive a good 2 or 3 blocks ahead. Be cognizant of possible threats. Parked vehicles, staged accidents, road construction. Be alert to any vehicles attempting to pass you, including motorcycles. Especially be wary of a cycle with a rear rider. Keep the car radio turned down in the front seat. It may be distracting to the driver. A siren system can be very effective in urban areas, especially against untrained or unsophisticated attackers. The horn can be an option, but naturally it's not as effective shock-wise as an electronic siren. Do not resort to high speed in a chase situation. There's too much chance of losing control of your vehicle. Use speed only on clear straightaways to gain more time to make turns and other evasive maneuvers. In a pursuit situation, any passengers, if unarmed, should duck down as low as possible to reduce target area and make maximum use of cover. Normally, a mile from an urban ambush site offers a degree of safety. Break off visual contact as soon as possible so that you are not a target for long-range fire. In a night confrontation, use your high beams for better viewing and to blind your attackers. As in a daylight attack, pick your best point of impact, ram straight through it. Once through, break visual contact as soon as possible. The best defense is merely to avoid the ambush situation in the first place. Several ways of doing this are: take different routes to your destination and avoid the habit of establishing a predictable behavior pattern. Vary your schedule. Sometimes your best way home will be the long way. Being a few minutes early or late is better than not arriving at all. In summary, know your vehicle. Remember, your car is a weapon, a very deadly weapon. In an ambush, your chance for survival may be decided in the few seconds you have to make a decision and to initiate a course of action. Therefore, whenever you're driving, keep in your mind various ambush situations and your reactions. Know what you'll do and do it. Don't be kidnapped or be killed because of panic, or worse, indecision. Get as much hands-on driving training as possible, and prepare yourself psychologically to react. Now let's review the basic steps of breaking a roadblock ambush by ramming. When confronted by an ambush roadblock, brake slowly and shift into low. Then brake suddenly. This sudden stop confuses the attackers. Quickly assess the situation and decide on your reaction. If you're going to ram, determine the best impact point. Accelerate. Build momentum as you strike straight through the ambush vehicle. Do not brake. Do not ease up on the accelerator. Do not swerve. Ram straight through. The attackers, not you, will be shot and injured. Once through the roadblock, break visual contact with the attackers as soon as possible. The offensive driving tactics you've observed are not 100% fail-safe. There is no written guarantee of success. Bad timing, a bad ramming angle, vehicle mechanical failure. These could all result in an entanglement or a stall. Remember, unpleasant as it may seem, one option may have to be surrender. Still, with proper mental conditioning, correct tactical procedures, and bold, decisive action, the odds for survival are excellent. It's up to you. You must believe it can happen and prepare yourself mentally to react, to counterattack for your survival.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. There's been several significant earthquakes that I think we should keep an eye on. A little while ago there was a 3.8 earthquake off the coast of California, there along the San Andreas Fault. 5 people reported feeling it. It had a depth of 7.9 kilometers, and there you can see its location and the fault line. This is the Gordo Plate. This is the Juan de Fuca fault line, which scientists say is healed. But it is a fault line that is capable of having a magnitude 9 or greater earthquake. The Southern California area, you can see there's a small swarm going on. They also had a 3.1 down there. It had a depth of 12.8 kilometers. There was an earthquake at Morgan Hill, 2.9 in magnitude, a depth of 6.4 kilometers. And there was a 2.3, 32 kilometers east of King City, California, a depth of 6.8. And then this one, which was a 2.0, Ventura, California. Looking at Yellowstone, there was a magnitude 2.6, 5.5 kilometers in depth. And then up there in Montana, a 2.5, south of Whitehall, Montana, 5.0 kilometers in depth. This 2.6 was in an area where past eruptions have occurred. Down here we would have the Madison River area. Up here, Mammoth Hot Springs. This is Earthquake Lake, where they had a fairly significant one. Quite a few people lost their lives. 1959, I believe it was. This is part of the Madison Range, the mountain range, appropriately named, I think. This is the spectrogram for the Madison River area. These charts are always 24 hours a day behind, and they're based on universal time. This is ancient helium and methane. Sulfur dioxide, you can see the harmonic tremors that were occurring prior to this earthquake. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff that was released during that one time frame. You can see it there. Little dotted lines. You can see the melt is rising. As I reported before, they have no tilt meter that's available for the public for the Madison River area. Here's that 2.6 earthquake that they are reporting. You can see there was magma coming into the system prior to that. We have an earthquake here with a small P wave. A lot of popping since then. And this is what's currently showing. Yeah, more magma coming in. Some small earthquakes that are occurring. As the ground expands, uplift occurs, making more room for the magma that's coming in. Here we have the spectrogram from yesterday for Yellowstone Lake. This is an area that's heating up. Scientists last year were surprised, very surprised, at the temperature levels of the water in the lake. And I've talked about the tilt of the lake. It's going down in the northeast section of the lake, while in the southwest corner it's rising. Look what has happened within the last day. Yes, and they don't have the data for today. You can see that there. This is the chart going back 30 days. You can see it's the largest uplift that they've had. Largest uplift they've had since 2008. They reset the machine sometime in 2014. Stopped recording between 2009 and 2011. You can see in the areas that the melt on the ground has increased dramatically since the last time I did my recording. Look at all those patches that there's no snow. I have no control over the camera. It's controlled by different people who volunteer their time to man this. Now the area of the uplift over there by Grant. This is close to the area where there's another bulge occurring. You can see here the harmonic tremors. Lava, magma coming in. Substantial yesterday. Look at that. This is the tilt meter for the Grant area. Again, a substantial uplift. Look at that. This goes back 7 days. This goes back 30 days. Now we'll see if it goes back down within the next day or even week or so. Again, largest uplift since 2009. This is where they reset the machine here in 2012. so we really can't go by what it shows. One of the plot maps for Norris Junction. Channel C3 is ancient helium and methane. Look at all that's being released. The other one is sulfur dioxide. So when you clean it all up, this is why we had the earthquake over there. Yeah, ancient helium and methane, sulfur dioxide. Look at all the harmonic tremors going on. They had said that when the earthquake started reaching a magnitude 2, how often I don't know, but they would start taking notice. You'll notice here that the steam coming from Old Faithful looks a little darker in color. That's because material's coming up with the steam. Well, put whatever thoughts or comments you might have below. Bookmark my site. I'll keep you up to date. Please stay safe. And I will talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.
Hey everyone. Sorry I haven't posted anything in a couple of days. I had neck surgery back in late summer, and here I am, lifting stuff and carrying stuff I wasn't supposed to carry, and my mind says yes, but my body says, yo prick, you need to stop. So I guess my body won that one, so I had to take a few days to recover. But anyway, what I want to talk about, I haven't seen any videos on this. In a SHTF situation, what about the kids? Meaning, as parents, and as adults, we're going to be worried, stressed, trying to figure stuff out. And the kids are going to pick up on that. And that could mess with them. So, what we've been doing, we've been going to like the used bookstores and buying, well, the bookstore we go to, they got a free bin, and the older books they just put in there, and we've been getting like old spelling books like from the 60s and 70s and 80s, English book, math books, social history, social studies and stuff like that, health, to give them something to read. And while they're reading, they're learning. And we've got a comic book store up in Knoxville where they sell, comics for I think a quarter a piece. We go up there and we buy like $5, $10 worth of comics, just to have them set back so they have something to do. But you're going to have to let your kids get involved. Just the other day, we went out and we all picked walnuts, and they really enjoyed it. They ran around with their bags and their buckets and picking up walnuts, and it gave them something. They helped, and that's what you're gonna have to do in a situation. Let them go out and split wood or go gather nuts or wild onions, or take care of the garden, or the if you got farm animals, let them feed the chickens or get the eggs, or feed the goats or whatever. You're going to have to let them be useful so they feel like that you get their mind off of stuff as well. Kids are resilient. They can take a lot, where us adults, drives us crazy. But the kids, they're like a duck. They let the water rolls off their back. But you're going to have to let the kids in and let them help, let them participate. Some parents, they want to protect them. They don't want them to be out there or anything like that. But you're going to have to let them, participate, and you're going to have activities for them. I know a lot of kids nowadays has these phones and iPads and iPods and everything stuck in their ear and their face, but when something happens, it's going to go away. You're not going to have it. It's say an EMP hits, or the economy collapses and the power goes off. You're not going to have that stuff, and they're going to have to learn to do something else with their mind instead of having a computer or a Game Boy or a game or system in their face. So they're going to, like when I was a kid, I was into that Dungeons and Dragons. And the boys found my old Dungeons and Dragon books, and they love it. They sit there and they play, which I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You know, they're using their imagination. They're using their mind to solve a quest or a problem or something like that, and they really get into it. But you know, the kids are going to have to get involved. Either say, give your kids the fishing pole and say, hey, go down there and see if you can catch us some fish for dinner. Or if they're old enough, say, hey, go out there to the woods and set some traps, or you know, see if you can get us some squirrel or dove or pheasant or whatever's in your area. Just something to let them take part, let them be a part of it. Because they know something bad happened, and they'll want to help by any means necessary. But make sure they got toys if you got littler ones like I do. You know, I got a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. You know, my 3-year-old loves Thomas and Legos. So does my 8-year-old loves Legos, you know, building. So we've got, you know, a 5-gallon bucket set back for them. You know, of Legos and Thomas and Hot Wheels and stuff like that. I think I even went to the Dollar Tree and bought a couple of bags of Army Men and threw in there. That's just something they can get out and they can play. You know, a lot of people think, well, playtime's over with. It's time to get serious. I agree with that in some aspects. In some aspects, I don't agree. They're kids. You're going to have to let them be kids at some point, or it's going to mess with them. Yes, they're going to have chores. Yes, they're going to have to watch their P's and Q's. But you got to take a point, you know, take in. They're just kids. And you're going to have to let them be kids. You know, especially if you've got a group and there's 4 or 5 kids in that group, you know, let them be kids. Let them play. Let them have their kid time. You know, but you know, I haven't seen any videos that's out there about what about the kids. You know, you're going to have to, like we go get those books. Yes, they're learning. You know, they're reading and they're learning because they're not going to be no school. They might not be no school, so they're going to have to learn the basics. You know, math, English, spelling. You know, they're going to have to know that, and they're going to have to know our history, like social studies, history. And I'm talking about the history we were taught in school, not this modern crap. This I don't even know what they call it, but get the older books where it's got the real history in there, not this stuff where they're trying to rewrite history to fit the new government needs. What is it? No Child Left Behind or something like that. You know, it's crazy. But get the old history books and the old math books and spelling books and reading books, and get some comic books. Get crayons and coloring books. You know, you can get the coloring books that has activities in there, but just something to keep their mind going, and they're not stuck watching mom and dad worry, or watching mom and dad just work themselves to death. You know, let them be kids, and just let them, you know, the world, if anything happens, the world's going to suck. But, you know, for us adults, it's going to really suck. But let the kids have some freedom and happiness. And maybe, you know, if we look at them, we get some enjoyment out of watching them be happy. But, you know, that's my thought on that. You know, there's a lot of people that might think I'm wrong, but, you know, that's your guys' opinion. You know, I'm going to try to make it where my kids, yes, they're going to help out, but they're going to be kids. They're going to have their free time. They're going to have their play time. You know, they're not going to be they're going to have an education. It might not be the education that a school system can give them, but I'm going to teach them how math and how to spell, how to write, and about history and social studies and stuff like that, so that way when they get older and things does straighten out and school does start back, they're not standing there like, duh, I don't know what you're talking about. They're going to have the knowledge. And like I said, just let them be kids. It's going to be hard enough on them. A lot of stuff's going to be taken away from them. But make sure they're well taken care of with their playtime and stuff they enjoy. Because, like I said, the games and the phones and stuff like that, if there's no power, it's not going to be around. So they're going to have to find other ways to amuse themselves. And, when my 3 boys are bored or it's been raining and they can't get out and do anything, boy, they fuss and they fight. That drives me crazy. I'm waiting for the weather to break so they can hit the door and go run and play and stuff like that. But just imagine if they're stuck and they can't go outside or they can't do anything because fear of somebody seeing them or something like that. Just imagine how they're going to feel. But anyway, guys, I hope this video, everybody understood it. And I'll see you the next time on the next one. I've got one in mind. Sorry. Got a tractor with a blown tire coming through here. But anyway, guys, everybody be safe. And tell me what you think. Tell me, am I looking at it the right way or am I looking at it the wrong way? I love your guys' comments and stuff like that. The good, the bad, the thumbs up and the thumbs down. I enjoy them all. But again, everybody be safe, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Good evening. An electrical storm system that caused hundreds of lightning strikes is lingering over the city tonight. The bolts caused a devastating house fire, delayed trains and flights, and blacked out 7,000 homes across Perth.
In slow motion, these bolts of electricity are even more spectacular.
Whoa, that was a good one!
But for one Parkwood family, it was devastating. Ali Cameron's home was destroyed by fire, sparked by a bolt of lightning.
That lit up the whole house. The power went out. Chimes started going off everywhere.
The house was struck twice, 4 hours apart. The sleeping family didn't realise there was a fire burning in their roof.
A neighbour was ringing our bell, knocked on our door, and said that our house was on fire. So, we just got the boys and got out, and then you could see the smoke coming from the roof.
When the guy rang the doorbell, I quickly got out of the bed because I knew something hit the house.
Firefighters say the house will need to be demolished.
The massive bang, and then it was just like...
North of the city, scaffolder Roger Hunt was at a Neerabup warehouse when he says he was struck by lightning.
We got a massive crash of thunder and lightning, just bang, just down. I felt like I was in it. It was like all around me. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced.
Last night's storm rolled in from the hills at sunset. By 10 o'clock, planes had been grounded at Perth Airport. 25 flights in total, thousands of passengers delayed while lightning kept airport staff off the tarmac. Western Power restored electricity to 7,000 homes across the state. Innaloo Sportsman's Club was drenched, tradies picking the wrong week for roof renovations.
Mainly carpet damage, there is a bit of ceiling damage, but we've been pretty lucky. We don't think there's much that we can't recoup.
Lightning also caused delays on the trains from Joondalup to Mandurah, a damaged transformer causing signal issues during peak hour this morning.
There's also been the very high humidity levels as well. An indication of that is a temperature reading that we call the dew point. That was very high this morning, one of the highest readings in March that we've had.
The Bureau says last night's thunderstorm was intense, sparked by a combination of three factors. Perth's humidity was 97% at 6 o'clock this morning. An unstable atmosphere allowed the clouds to expand, while a current low-pressure trough is making the air rise.
And we're being warned the electrical storms are set to continue through the night. Michael Genovese, the conditions are still perfect for lightning.
Good evening, Tim. Right now, conditions are almost identical to 24 hours ago, and we've already seen one storm cell roll through the eastern suburbs of Perth. Now, the Bureau says that this weather pattern is highly unpredictable, but certain pockets of Perth can expect some heavy rainfall this evening. There is already a severe thunderstorm warning in place north of Perth. That's up the coast to Shark Bay. We are expecting this storm cell to clear the metropolitan area by around about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Now, the violent storm system that pummeled the central part of the United States is now heading east.
More than 20 tornadoes were reported in 5 states. At least 3 people were killed, 2 in Illinois and 1 in Missouri. Michelle Miller is in the Plate, Illinois, outside Ottawa, Illinois, which was one of the hardest hit areas. Michelle, we can see the extensive damage behind you. Paint a picture for us. What's it like?
Oh, it's just awful. I have to tell you that homes have been severely damaged. There are situations here that families are coming back to absolutely nothing. You have downed trees, as you can see before me. You have power lines that are down. You have whole power poles that have been taken, literally ripped out of the ground and are leaning over. It's awful to witness, especially awful when you see the looks and the horror on the faces of the individuals who live inside these homes, and they have nothing left. We met one family who came back. Everything inside their house was destroyed, and the only thing remaining was their pit bull dog. I have to tell you, the other thing about this is just how many people this one tornado affected. There are 500 families whose homes were impacted here. That's a quarter of the town of Naplate. So it is really hitting this place hard. The governor of Illinois stopped through here to reassure families that the state would be here for them. And in fact, last night he enacted the state's Emergency Response Operations Center so that they could hit the ground running this morning and ensure that they would be here to provide help and assistance to many of the families who are, quite frankly, going to be displaced.
talihsiz telefon attığımızda. Efendim?
En büyük tesellimiz bize ulaşan herhangi bir can kaybının olmaması. Bu bizim en büyük tesellimiz. Samsat ve kısmen Adıyaman merkezde ve Şahsat Kaçgölü dışındaki ilçelerimizde hiçbir sıkıntımız yok. Herhangi bir hasar veya yaralı vatandaşımızdan bulunmamakta. Bize ulaşan tedavi amaçlı başlayan vatandaşlarımızdan
Now, Oklahoma and Kansas have the same risk levels of having an earthquake. Now, that's according to the U.S. Geological Survey. However, there's just one major difference. The Golden State's tremors have been caused by natural reasons, and Oklahoma's quakes are man-made, and many have been connecting it to hydraulic fracturing in the state. The forecast for 2017 says there may be fewer earthquakes, but their magnitude could rise, endangering the lives of up to 3 million people. RT's Alexei Yaroshevsky reports.
Shaking earth, devastation and deaths. Earthquakes occur as a result of seismic waves through rupture of geological faults or volcanic activity. That's of course the natural explanation, and for decades the state of California topped the chart of such earthquakes in the United States. But what if those earthquakes are man-made, caused by hydraulic fracking and wastewater disposal technology? The vivid example of that is the state of Oklahoma. Since 1999, it went from registering 2 earthquakes a year to 3 earthquakes a day. Some just break windows, some can even damage buildings. This time-lapsed video of earthquake count over the last decade in Oklahoma would give you a better idea of how bad it is for the state right now. And it's hardly a coincidence that all this follows an oil and gas boom there. Oklahoma currently has 4,500 wells, 3,200 of them operating on a daily basis. Induced quakes have become more frequent because there's more wastewater from oil and gas operations around the country, and that has to be disposed of. Companies pump it down into the underground wells, and sometimes that water raises pressure on underground faults that then slip and cause those small quakes. For the past 2 years, according to the latest data, the number of earthquakes in Oklahoma has been decreasing. The same, however, cannot be said about the magnitude. The geological forecast for 2017 by Geoscience World says that Oklahoma and Kansas are still in a high-risk zone. Typically, the strength of earthquakes will decrease along with their frequency, but that has not held true for Oklahoma. Last year, the state experienced its 2 most powerful tremors, with 5.8 magnitude in September near Pawnee, followed by a 5.3 magnitude near Cushing in November. Just a 5.0 magnitude quake is enough to send cracks up a building's wall. The fracking industry quashes suggestions that its operations cause earthquakes, but numbers and, more importantly, tremors do not lie. Up to 3 million people are living on a powder keg in Oklahoma's quake epicenter zones, with one major difference to those living in California. Oklahoma's infrastructure is not prepared for those. Alexei Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.
The world's coldest continent officially has a new record high temperature. According to the World Meteorological Organization, Antarctica's northern tip reached a verified high of 63.5 degrees Fahrenheit in March 2015. That broke the old record of 59 degrees Fahrenheit. That was set in January of 1974. Antarctica was so warm on that day, it was hotter than some American cities. The high in Denver on March 24, 2015, 60 degrees. In Virginia Beach, it was only 47 degrees. The global record high of 134 degrees Fahrenheit set in California in 1913 is still standing.
The number of flu deaths continue to rise in our states. And this week, the State Department of Health and Human Services reports 16 people have died from complications related to the virus. And this brings a new total in North Carolina to 63 flu-related deaths this season, 4 of which were children. The CDC estimates 3,000 to 49,000 people die from flu infection nationwide each year. The health department says the flu vaccine is the most effective protection against the virus.
Araquang's nephew, Nyagwande, has been suffering from diarrhea for days, but only water available to quench his thirst is from the nearby swamp here in Padie.
He drank water which is not clean, and the food we found we couldn't cook well. Now he has diarrhea, is vomiting, and maybe has malaria.
Padie is in Lear and one of the areas where famine was declared in late February this year. Drinking dirty water is often the only option, and with bodies weakened by hunger, not all who fall sick survive. Aid organizations say more than 100 people died of cholera alone over the past 6 months. And Yanenboom fears her children could suffer the same fate.
I left my other children at home to find food. They are sick with diarrhea. They're vomiting. They say they have headaches.
More than 3 years of conflict in South Sudan has left nearly half of the country's population facing severe food insecurities. More than 100,000 people are in the grip of famine, and that number is expected to rise.
Because of the conflicts and lack of access for humanitarian actors, many children lose their lives to preventable diseases. And with many areas suffering from famine, there are fears that more lives will be lost.
Aid agencies are struggling to give people the care they need.
It is very clear that in the whole county, water is a major issue, and clean water is a major issue. Sanitation is absolutely a major issue, and hygiene is a major issue. It's these 3 factors that indeed are creating the health challenges. And indeed, the other part is clearly because we haven't had the access that we need to be able to provide, the much needed health services.
Those health services can mean the difference between life and death for the people of South Sudan. Par knows her nephew faces an uncertain future. Heba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Padie, South Sudan.
The Australian Foreign Ministry has announced that it will temporarily recall all its ambassadors to help reshape the country's foreign policy. Over 100 heads of missions, including the nation's ambassadors, high commissioners, and consul generals, will return to 3 days next month. They will meet with Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and trade and foreign ministers to discuss a long-awaited foreign policy white paper.
You know that Brussels has been an epicenter of terrorism in recent months and years. Right now, Brussels police are checking a car. It might be that white van that you see in the center of the screen. It was located with gas bottles and gasoline cans inside it, apparently. There was one blast heard. Authorities have closed off part of Brussels to check the suspect vehicle. Whether they have found active terrorism underway, we do not yet know, but we're certainly on top of it. We'll let you know more as the hour progresses.
2 French presidential candidates could be headed to jail instead of Élysée Palace. Far-right leader Marine Le Pen has been accused of illegally posting bloody and violent photos on social media in an effort to rile up her base. Meanwhile, conservative François Fillon faces an ongoing investigation over a fake job scandal involving his wife.
Oprah for president. The 60 Minutes correspondent says she's now rethinking the possibility. Winfrey reveals that before the election, she dismissed the idea, believing that she really didn't have enough government experience.
Well, that's been upended, I think.
But after President Trump won, she began to think a little differently.
Yeah. She has been a longtime Hillary Clinton supporter, and she talked to David Rubenstein in an interview that taped in December. It aired last night on Bloomberg TV. Take a listen.
Have you ever thought that given the popularity you have, we haven't broken the glass ceiling yet for women, that you could actually run for president and actually be elected?
I actually never thought that was, I never considered the question even a possibility. I just thought, oh.
Right, because it's clear that you don't need government experience to be elected president of the United States, right?
I thought, oh, gee, I don't have the experience. I don't know enough. I don't know. And now I'm thinking, oh.